Hey team. All right, you've been digging into the SLA sources. Now it's time to get your brain ready for writing about it. So we're going to be focusing on strengthening your argument with evidence. So let's jump in. We have 5 chunks for today's video. Check in, strong evidence, using that strong evidence, what are some common mistakes that I see, and then a success checklist. So when we're checking in, I'm curious what you think an argumentative position is. Well, it's a clear stance on a specific topic, your opinion or belief about an issue, and it has to be supported by evidence and it can be defended with logical reasoning. That's really what you're being asked to do with this SLA. Identify your argumentative position. So let's talk about evidence for this. When we're finding strong evidence, we need to read multiple sources and read it carefully so that our brains are exposed to different ideas, different perspectives. And as readers, we're being really careful about what information maybe contradicts each other, what information aligns with the other source, so that we as readers are more aware of how the argument might be developed. You're going to be reading 2 sources, or you've read, hopefully, 2 sources so far this week. So you're already doing that. Good job. Oops. I'm also going to ask that you are highlighting relevant info. What information connects with the argument that you're going to want to make? Highlight that so that when you're having to find evidence, you already have that figured out. It's way easier to highlight and have that now instead of when you're trying to write, go back, reread everything, and then find the evidence. Take organized notes. This is really helpful later on. So, at the end of each of the sources, there's this chart for you guys where you're going to be putting the evidence with the correct citations, and then you're going to be analyzing that evidence. If you're realizing that you kind of maybe went too quickly over one of those or both of them, this is the time to go back and make those improvements. Believe me, it will make writing your SLA and Mod 9 so much easier. So let's talk about using evidence. We need to be connecting our evidence to the claim that we are making. And you need to choose evidence that clearly relates to your argument. So if you're arguing that the freshness of food is important to consider when creating school lunch menus, the evidence would probably be about how nutrition in food decreases if it's left out for too long. If your argument focuses on freshness of food, it would be confusing if your evidence was about the impact of student confidence when they get to have choices. That would be confusing. Great topic, but it doesn't connect to fresh food. Use those transition words to connect your ideas. That's another important step for connecting your evidence to the claims. You're going to have these sentence frame offerings, and I recommend that you use them according to the text. In the text it said. Those transition words help the reader know that you're going to be pulling in evidence. When you're younger writers, you often will just put the quote in and that's it. That's a great first step. Now, as you are becoming more sophisticated, mature authors, we want to be pulling in these transition words to elevate our writing and help the reader along also. Then the last step when we're connecting evidence to claims is making logical connections between the evidence and the claim. And I suggest that you do that in 2 steps. The first is just summarizing the quote. Tell the reader what that evidence means. Then you're going to tell the reader how that evidence supports your argument. That part is key because your fabulous brain is different than mine, and you want to make sure that it is clear to the reader why that evidence connects with your argument. All right, let's talk about writing with evidence. Use your resources team. These sentence frames, if we were in person, I would have these up on the wall. They would be an anchor chart. We would use it all the time. So I highly recommend you use them. Sometimes students worry that using them is like cheating. It's not. This is totally okay to use. Not okay to use AI on this assignment, but you can use these sentence frames for sure. All right, so let's talk about the structure of our SLA. This is nothing new, team. You have got this. We're going to be using a CER-ERC. So we're going to start off with our claim where we introduce our argument. Then we're going to have evidence number 1 from one of the sources that you read this week. Then our reasoning where you explain how that evidence connects back. I kind of view it as piggybacking, like this goes to this, goes to that. And then we're going to have evidence number 2 from a second source, reasoning number 2, and then we're going to end with our conclusion. And these two, I would say our reasoning and evidence connect as well. And then our conclusion brings it home for the reader. All right, so let me erase all that. Let me show you an example of this. I'm going to change the topic just to, not have it be the same as what we are doing. All right, so if our claim is school start times should be later, then we need to back it up with evidence. In the text it stated, studies show teenagers perform better academically with more sleep. Then we have our citation with our author's last name, comma, page number. And then our reasoning, where we summarize the evidence and then explain the evidence to the reader how it connects to the claim. In other words, students are able to sleep longer when school starts later. Clearly, this supports the argument because student sleep is important for student health, and school starting late would help students get more sleep. Conclusion. Schools need to adjust their schedules so they support the education and health of students. So we are pulling it all together. Now, when you're writing yours, you're going to have a second piece of evidence and a second reasoning. I just want to kind of walk you through the brief version. Let's talk about some common mistakes that I tend to see. One is using irrelevant evidence that doesn't connect clearly to the topic. So making sure that there's a clear connection between the two is important. Then, not explaining your connections. Sometimes students kind of just drop the evidence and then walk away from it. Got to make sure that it makes sense to the reader. Misquoting your sources. So sometimes I'll have students who forget to do the citation, the punctuation isn't correct, and it's a little confusing for the reader. Remember, punctuation is communication. So double check and make sure you're using all of the resources that show you how to do that. The other is descriptive. Sometimes I'll have students who describe the topic or describe the issue, but they don't make an argument. They don't take a stance. Make sure that you are throwing down. You are throwing down and sharing what your argument is about this topic. All right, success checklist, team. Clear claim with a direct response to the prompt. That is key. Using your proper citation where you have the parenthesis, author, comma, page number, parenthesis, period. All right? Those are key. Using strong reasoning to explain how this evidence connects to your prompt. Using 2 pieces of evidence. And for those of you who are wanting kind of that spicy level of challenge, use evidence from the 2 different sources. Instead of pulling evidence from 2 pieces of evidence from the same article, pull 1 piece of evidence from one article, 1 piece of evidence from the other. Logical connections. Don't throw a curveball at the end of your conclusion where you throw in a different idea than what you've been arguing the whole time. Keep everything focused, team. Use this structure, the CER-ERC, that is super helpful for you, and use those clear explanations. Okay, team? I believe in you, and I wanted to show you what Mod 9 is going to look like because it's different. We do not have school on Thursday and Friday. Enjoy. No school this week. So one thing that I want to remind you of then is that means you have less time to be writing your rough draft. We're going to start this during our VC, and then I'm going to ask that you finish it on So our VC will meet on Tuesday. I'm going to ask that you finish this by Wednesday. Okay. Needs to be done so that I can give you feedback on the days off. I'm going to be looking in, digging in, giving you guys all kinds of feedback. And then on Monday, you're going to read that feedback and make goals. Okay. I believe in you. I'm not going to stop saying it. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Okay. Partner up. Join me for IS. Join me for all the things. All right. Take care, team. Bye.